Vice Minister Shi Yaobin and Vice Minister Hu Jinling. First, we invite Minister Xiao. Thank you. Friends from the press, good morning. In the past year, with the leadership of Party Central Committee with Comrade Xi Jinping at its core, the Ministry of Finance has implemented the decisions and instructions of the Party Congress and implement a very proactive fiscal policy, optimizing the expenditure structure and expand the investments in key areas and in full support of the supply side reform. We have made contribution to the stability of the development and the improvement of the livelihood of the people. With the instruction of the State Council, we have submitted the financial budget to the National Congress for deliberation. Now, with together my colleague, the Vice Minister Shi Yaobin and Hu Jinling, would like to address questions from you. Thank you. Now the floor is open.
Still enjoyed a fairly rapid growth of 7.4% in 2017. What is the reason behind this? Could you elaborate on the policy of cutting taxes and fees for 2018?
谢谢你的提问。
Thank you for your question. For your question, it is the concern from the other press colleagues. Economy is the foundation for the financial situation. And the economic development is very important for our fiscal reform. The financial revenue relates closely to the economic development. Last year, we have achieved 80 trillion GDP with a 6.9% increase. We have very strong economic momentum and the improvement of the enterprises' operation, which are the fundamentals for boosting the economic growth. And we have a very fast growth of the PPI, which drives the increase of the taxation revenue. For the current taxation revenue, it is most composed of the indirect taxation revenue. We have attached great importance to the taxation growth. The other thing I want to mention is that in recent years, we have implemented a sound policy to maintain sustained growth and develop new variety of tax categories, which provides the driver for growing the taxation revenue. Last year, we also see a high demand from China and abroad. And we have an increase in the number of products, of imported products, which leads to a high increase of the taxation income from the imported products. In 2017, the taxation increase has reached 7.4%, which realized a 2.9% increase over 2016. This reflects that we have a growth in the GDP, but also we achieve a better quality. Regarding your second question, it is another hot topic in the society. This year, as instructed by the Party Congress, Central Committee of the party, we will continue to slash the tax and fee in order to release the burden of the society and drive momentum. I would like to take a few minutes to elaborate on this topic and summarize some of the key considerations in slashing the tax and fee. The first one, we will continue to improve the VAT program. We will adjust the brackets of VAT from 3 brackets to 2 brackets. The purpose is to reduce the tax rate for manufacturing and transport industry in order to drive the growth of real economy. And the second is to reform the individual income tax, including raising the threshold of the individual income tax. And we will also like to create more expense deductions. And this year we will continue our strenuous efforts to support the small, medium, low profit enterprises. And we will provide them with a favorable tax policy to those companies and benefit them. And we also need to further implement the angel investments and venture investment projects. For equipment under 5 million RMB, and we will also adding some favorable tax reduction policies. With these tax reduction policies, it is estimated that we will have around 80 million tax reduction for the year. And this year we will continue to overhaul the government management funds and abolish or suspend administrative charges by enterprises. And it is estimated that it will slash down a further 300 billion yuan. So this year, we will give more reductions from the government side in order to provide more benefits to the public. Thank you.
问财政部对此有何评论？下一步怎么样加强这个地方债务的这些管理，还有这个就是控制这个债务的风险？谢谢。
With Hong Kong Commercial Daily, according to some international institutions, the direct debt of Chinese government will reach 40% of its GDP in 2018 and 45% in 2020. What is your comment on that? What new measures will the government take to strengthen management of local government debt and fend off debt risks?
谢谢您的提问。
Thank you for your question. We realize that for some international institutions, they have made some projections over certain concerns. Before I address these questions, I would like to clarify one concept. With the budget law of China, we have a scope for the range of the debt. It includes the national debt from the central government and the local government's bond. I would like to explain some concepts to you first. Why we keep emphasizing the number by the end of 2014. Start from 2015, China has adopted a revised budget law. By 2017, the debt balance of China reached 29.9 trillion. And for the central government, the debt balance is 14.8 trillion yuan, and the local government debt reaches 16 trillion yuan. Based on this number, we calculated the debt to GDP ratio, which is 36.2%. Actually, this number in 2017 already has some improvement compared to the previous year, which is 36.7%. With this calculation, we are below the average of the international society, which is 60%. And also, it is better than some other countries. It is estimated that in the upcoming few years, the debt to GDP ratio of China, when we compare to the figure of 2017, will not have big changes over 2017.
I would also like to take this opportunity to brief you that China always attach great importance on management of governmental debt, especially after we followed the new budgetary law. We have issued a raft of policies and measures which covers the current stock management, warning, emergency, daily management, and supervision. It covered all fronts, and we can see that we have established the mechanism of monitoring local government debt based on the new budgetary method. In order to issue the local government bonds, or this is the only way, let me say that this is the only way to raise funds for local government. To the illegal financing method, we have always our attitude is clear-cut and consistent. We will always trace to the responsibility, and we follow every single case of illegal behavior. Maybe you have already noticed that last year we published to the illegal case around 10 cases in this regard, and we have punished around more than 100 people involved. For our next step, we will continue our efforts in this regard. We will further regulate and strengthen our supervision on local government bond issuance. Our consideration is that we will increase the scope of debt in an appropriate way. So this year, our plan is to increase around 13.5 million. So that's around 55 million more than last year. And we will also identify the debt ceiling number for each area, and we will also set up the specific projects. And we will also further enhance the power of budgetary measurement. We will monitor and treat the responsibility who raise the bond, who will pay the responsibilities. Who issue the bond, who pay the responsibilities. We will strengthen our measures in this regard. We will have clear definition on role and responsibilities of local government, and we will also strengthen our supervision in this regard. We will also trace the responsibility back. So by all these measures and policies, with the concerted efforts made by related departments, we will guarantee there is no systematic risks happened. Thank you.
我们看到，2017年全国财政支出是首次突破了20万亿元。同时呢，在今年的政府工作报告中也提出，2018年全国财政支出呢将进一步增加到21万亿元。应该说，我们国家的钱袋子是越来越沉了，同时呢，对提高财政资金使用效益的要求也越来越高了。所以在这儿，我想请问肖部长，财政部将采取哪些措施，切实把钱花好，用到刀刃上？谢谢。
With CCTV. In 2017, China's fiscal expenditure exceeded 20 trillion yuan for the first time, and it will be further increased to 21 trillion yuan this year, according to the government work report. As we have greater financial resources than before, there is also higher requirement on the efficiency of government funds. What measures will the Ministry of Finance take to ensure that the financial resources will be used for the most worthy projects?
感谢记者朋友对财政资金使用绩效问题的关心。
Thank you for your question. And I would also like to appreciate our gratitude for your focus on this regard. We use the government funds for the people and to the people. We should always use the governmental fund to the worthy projects in order to create a high efficiency. This is our basic role and responsibility. as you have asked the question regarding the fiscal expenditure. For the fiscal government, actually, we have larger roles in this regard. Same as one family, if you consider a family expenditure. So fiscal expenditure arrangement should consider where we should allocate this number of funds. We need to always trigger to the high worthy usage of the fund. We should not waste any single source of the money, so that require us to have the performance management on governmental funds expenditure. Though recently, the Ministry of Finance has studied in this regard, and we have established the framework of performance-driven management method based on party's 19th National Congress requirement. We will further increase our efficiency in the governmental funds management and increase the public service quality. I would like also to take this opportunity regarding your key concerns. I would like to briefly introduce to you our consideration in government funds. So first, we will further improve the mechanism in government funds management. We will comprehensively set up the goal and also have the clear role and responsibility regarding the government funds. So basically, the person should pay the responsibility to use the government funds, especially down to each department. So we will have a close monitor on funds usage. Especially, we will further our management and monitoring on the operation and pre-operation management. If that surpass the goal or surpass the funds is allowed to use, then we will go to the person or the department and to let them correct their behavior. And second, we will gradually expand the scope of management. Right now, the current performance management only to the general public budget. We will expand the scope to cover all fiscal funds, including the governmental and the public sector's funds management. Third, we will strengthen the results of performance-driven management, which means we have the system and we will use the result of the management to lead our work. For the result with the outstanding performance, we will give further support. But for the low performance ones, the budget will be cut in order to further streamline and improve the structure of fiscal funds, as well as increasing the efficiency of government funds. And number 4, we will strengthen our supervision in this regard. We will actively introduce the third party and experts to participate in performance evaluation in order to increase the professionalism of our evaluation. I would like to say that we will also announce our results to the public and also report to the NPC to receive the society, including our media friends, your supervision on our work. And I would also like to share with you that strengthening the performance evaluation on government funds, increasing the efficiency of government funding usage is a long-term work. With the government expenditure increasing and the budget revenue increasing, Ministry of Finance, with other related departments, will always tighten our belt. So we will always follow the performance-driven result to create the new way of using our government expenditure. We'll spend less money but do a better job. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，我是日本经济新闻的记者。李克强总理在政府工作报告当中指出，稳妥推进房地产税的立法。那关于房地产税征收的实施时间以及征税的对象范围，你现在有哪些看法呢？谢谢。
With Nikkei, Premier Li Keqiang pointed out in the government work report that we need to appropriately advance the legislation on the real estate tax. So what's your comment on the time that the real estate tax will be introduced, on whom will it be levied, and what kind of properties will be taxable?
你的中文说的大家都能听得很清楚，但是你提的这个问题啊，更加紧要。
Your Chinese is very good, easy to understand, but your question is more focused on the specific topic, and I would like to invite Vice Minister Shi Yaobing to answer your question. Thank you for your question. Regarding realistic tax, I believe that's draw the whole society's focus in this regard because it related hundreds of millions of households related to each individual interest. Look back to the history. As one of the category of taxation, it enjoys a very long history. To my understanding or knowledge, it first began from Europe, with people's income increasing, have more and more assets. A lot of countries actually started to charge realistic tax. You're from Japan, I believe, maybe have different name, but more or less the same category of taxation. It seems like it's a common practice around the world. So it must play a certain key role. So it helps to adjust the structure of personal properties and also increase the equity in the society.
So it can satisfy the need to fulfill the services from the government. From the global tax, they have some common. We have made some summarize. There were 4 common principles which shared by different countries. The first one, so the tax will be imposed based on the value of the commercial and the individual housing. And the second common principle, in all the real estate tax, all the other countries have some favorable policies on the real estate tax. So for the deduction standards, they may have some favorable policies to some impoverished families or households. So in general, most of these countries have some favorable policy towards those real estate tax. And the third in common is that this tax will go to the local government. For the local government, they will use this tax income to facilitate the build-out of the educational sector and some infrastructure sector. And it is a complicated process to identify the base for the real estate tax. That's why a comprehensive tax collection mechanism needs to be formed for the real estate tax. So far, in China, we don't have a very comprehensive real estate tax law, but we do have some pilots in the past few years and accumulated experiences, just like what you mentioned. In Premier Li's government work report, he pointed out that the importance of the legislation of the real estate tax. Actually, during the third plenary session of the 18th Party Congress, it also emphasized the importance of the legislation system of the real estate tax, as well as the 19th Party Congress. With the instruction of the Central Committee of the CPC, the Finance Department, the Budgetary Department, and other related parties are working closely to improve and draft the real estate tax law. So, during this text, it emphasized the importance of the enforcement, and this law will be implemented by stages. Now we are improving the process of setting up the real estate tax. And I just mentioned that most of the countries, they all have the real estate tax and they have some common grounds. And we will refer to the common characteristics of the real estate tax in other countries. China has its own situation, and we will consider the specific Chinese situations and formulate our own real estate tax. For example, we will consolidate some of the tax categories, or we will lower the tax burden for the build-out of the real estate. By doing this, we can make our own taxation law more reasonable, and it can help us to better allocate our resources. Thank you.
是三大攻坚战的重要内容之一。但是根据报道，在扶贫资金的发放过程中存在着虚报、冒领、挤占、挪用等现象。那请问财政部对此将有哪些措施？谢谢。
With China Daily, as pointed out at the 19th CPC National Congress, we must win the three battles to finish building a moderately prosperous society in all respects. Targeted poverty alleviation is an important part of the three battles, but it is reported that such phenomena as false claims for poverty alleviation funds and embezzlement still exist. What measures will the Ministry of Finance take to address these problems?
这个问题请胡静林副部长回答。
好，谢谢这位记者朋友的提问。
We would like to invite Mr. Hu, the Vice Ministers to address this question. Thank you for your question. It is very important for us to fight against the three battles and lift the impoverished population and enter into a moderately prosperous battle. The Central Committee has attached great importance to this issue, and the society also pay close attention to this concern. And the Party Congress will stand side by side with the State Council and prioritize the poverty relief. All the efforts is to help battle against the poverty alleviation. And this year, we have invested tremendous amount for the targeted poverty alleviation. Last year, we have invested 86 billion yuan in this poverty relief fund, and this year, we have increased our fund to 106 billion. And also, we have made much more investment in the area of medical insurance, social securities. In order to ensure that other impoverished regions can also be lifted out of the poverty, we have prepared more poverty relief fund. And in the rural area, at least we'll invest 105 billion yuan. This is a large amount of investment, which takes up a big portion of the expenditure. And we have taken a series of measures. In 2017, we have supervised the usage of the Poverty Relief Fund in 28 provinces. And we also call back 730 million illegal use of the fund, and also held over 450 persons accountable. With the strengthening of the supervision of the use of the fund, and we do see some improvement in better utilize the Poverty Relief Fund. However, the Poverty Relief Fund covers a broad range of areas. In some regions and institutions, we still see some illegal usage of the Poverty Relief Fund. For this issue, we want to take two measures. The first one, we will further improve the system, the mechanism, to fill the gap in our mechanism. And the second point, we will try our best to investigate in the use of the Poverty Relief Fund, and relevant parties will be held fully accountable if some inappropriate behavior was found. Thank you.
With National Business Daily, many people are interested in the latest development of the fiscal and tax reforms. to clearly define the respective fiscal powers and expenditure responsibilities of central and local government is one of the 3 key tasks of the reform, an important part in building a modern fiscal system. Could you give us more information on this reform?
你提了一个很专业也很重要的问题。我想为了
This is a
让
very
在场的记者朋友
technical question. In order to help all of you better understand this reform issue, I want to further explain what is the financial power and what is the expenditure responsibility. When we say financial power, meaning that the obligation for the central government to better utilize the fund to support the build-out of the infrastructure. And for the expenditure responsibility is the obligation for the central and local government when they're using the financial powers. For the reform to define the respective financial power and the expenditure responsibilities of central and local government, this is very important because this reform will define a scientific framework. And this reform is the precondition for the central government to better utilize their fund. This is also echoes with the spirit that is proposed by the 19th CPC Party Congress. There are many connotations to the spirit to the 19th CPC Congress, meaning that respective financial powers and coordinated financial power. Regarding the reform for this definition of the financial power and expenditure responsibilities, it covered a wide range of areas. It is a very complicated project. In order to strengthen this reform, we need a holistic plan to move forward. Last year, you may have noticed that we have released a reform in the diplomatic areas. And this year, we have an updated reform plan. All of these plans that we put forward this year are served as the guidance for the reform to define the respective financial powers and the expenditure responsibilities.
On this basis, this year, we'll further advance reform on education, medical services, transportation, environmental protection. We will further advance the definition of financial power and expenditure responsibilities in those sectors. By further advance the reform, it's very conducive to all levels of local government to further fulfill their duties and be more effective to increase the level of financial power and increase people's happiness, sense of secure and fulfillment. Thank you.
谢谢主持人，我是澎湃新闻的记者。我的问题是关于个税起征点。今年的政府工作报告明确提出要提高个税起征点，增加子女教育、大病医疗等专项费用的扣除，进行合理减负。大家听了这个消息之后都非常高兴。我想请问您能否详细介绍一下这项工作的相关的工作计划？谢谢。
With the paper, the report on the work of the government has made it clear that the threshold of individual income tax will be raised and expense deductions for items like children's education and treatment for serious diseases will be created to appropriately alleviate burdens for the people. People are indeed very heartened by this news. Could you elaborate on the work plan on this front?
我想告诉各位记者朋友，大家都将是今年
I would like to say that all of you here will be the beneficiaries of this year's personal income tax reform. And now I would like to invite Shi Yaobin to give you more details. Thank you for your question, and thank you, Minister, to give me this opportunity to answer these important questions. First of all, I would like to clarify the definition. Right now, all of us are very familiar with the occupational taxation. We talk about the basic fees. It sounds very technical. But right now we're talking the threshold as 3,500 RMB. If above this amount, we will levy the tax. Besides, we are talking about the threshold for personal income tax. There are also other arrangements in this regard, like the pension plan, the medical insurance, for the housing fees, the occupational or the corporate pension scheme or the commercial insurance. All of us can be deducted before tax. And we will also have the policy will be released regarding the before tax health care insurance. All of these together is the rights should be enjoyed or is currently already enjoyed by each one of us. This is the first I would like to say. As the questions you have asked in the government work report delivered by Premier Li, it mentioned will increase or raise the personal income tax threshold, including the children's education and treatment for serious disease. From the government report, we can tell that there are two underlying meanings behind that should draw our attention. Number one, it increase threshold. How to increase? You mentioned. But to what extent? We will base on last year's basic living standard lines to identify and raise the proposal of threshold increase. That's regarding to the policy-wise. Second, that is unprecedented. We actually include the specific deduction. And as Premier Li mentioned in the work report, we will first select the sectors such as children's education and serious disease treatment that's closely related to our people's daily life. Of course, the final policies or the measures will be decided based on the reality. Besides these two key areas, I would also like to share with you that this time the reform on personal income tax threshold will also improve our current mode or models Right now, the current model of taxation is based on the categorized method. And this time we will bring this categorized practice into the category plus comprehensive ones. This is also the global practice. For the fees, like the occupational or the other working-related personal income, we will combine them all together as comprehensive fees, and we will have a sort of so-called threshold based on these comprehensive fees. Why we're doing this is we will better reflect the equality among the society and also adjust the structure. By following the new model of taxation, all these comprehensive factors will be integrated on a yearly basis. For our next step, we'll further implement the plans and decisions made by the Central Party Committee and State Council. We will start the plans and legislation works in this regard. All the areas I mentioned will reflect through the legislation. For personal income tax should base on the law in this regard. Once we confirm, the legislation will supply to the NPC as for final deliberation and approval. Once it's approved, it will be implemented. With further advance in the legislation, we will raise the personal income tax threshold, and we will cover more categories deductible to make the structure sound, reasonable, and make it as a conducive tool to further increase equality of the society and also the adjust of the structure. Thank you.
我是华尔街日报的记者，请问有一个关于赤字率的问题。今年的这个赤字率我们注意到是2013年以来首次下调。那市场比较关心的一个问题就是赤字率的下调是否是意味着积极的财政政策会逐步的退出？具体说来，就是说这个赤字率的下调会不会影响到基建投资的增速，从而影响到今年经济的增长？非常感谢。
With Wall Street Journal, we have noted that this year the deficit to GDP ratio has been adjusted downward for the first time since 2013. I'd like to know that whether it will affect the investment on infrastructure and, as a result, affect the growth rate of the Chinese economy for this year.
谢谢你的提问。正像你刚才所讲的。
Thank you, your question. As you mentioned, this year's deficit to GDP ratio is indeed downward a little bit compared to the number last year. This is also the first time we lowered the number recent years. I would like to clear that although the ratio decreased, but let me make it clear that the active fiscal policy remain unchanged. The budgetary arrangement for this year is based on the 238 billion RMB. For the size of deficit actually is the same as the one last year. Deficit to GDP ratio decrease because China's economy is pursuing progress while ensuring stability and a healthier fiscal situation, I would also like to share with you that the decrease in deficit to GDP ratio will also conducive to China's long-term economic development, as well as effective macro regulation. You may have already noticed that the ratio of deficit to GDP declining. I also answer the question regarding the scope of fiscal budget. Actually, these are one of factors to identify active fiscal policy. Besides deficit, if you look at one country's fiscal policy, whether it's active or not, you should also consider that this country's fiscal policy during execution is effective or not, is conducive to the economic development in a healthy way. If you have already read the budgetary report in details, I'm not doing advertisement. This is my suggestion. Please read in details and pay close attention to China's fiscal development. Actually, it's very easy to tell that this year's active fiscal policy actually has remained a very strong momentum. Why I'm saying this? Please allow me to elaborate. First, this year's government expenditure is increasing. The general transfer payment will reach 21 trillion yuan, as the government expenditure is budgeted at 21 trillion yuan. In our work report, it mentioned is 20.9 trillion yuan. Based on the same standards, increased 7.6% compared to the number last year. This growth rate actually is surpassing the increase rate of 6.1% of government revenue. We can tell this is a very strong number.
Meanwhile, I also mentioned that we have also issued a bond to local government. Also have a 550 billion increase over last year. And also we have around like 30 billion increased in the investment for the budget in our budget report. The two figures I have delivered just further inform you that we are actually expanding the investment instead of deducting the investment. And also, the second point I want to make is that we keep slashing the tax and the fees. For this year's budget, for the whole year, we will reduce tax by around 800 billion yuan, and with a fee reduction at 300 billion yuan. This is the reason why we want to carry out the reform All of this reform will help us to reduce the institutional cost and improve the efficiency of the financial work. And the third point is about the usage of financial fund. We are striving for an effective use of the financial fund. With the budget arrangement, our key priority is the 3 critical battles, and we will continue to support the supply side reform and ensure a better life for our people. And we will also cut down the unnecessary expenses through the optimization of the expenditure to improve the efficiency of the use of the fund. And we will reflect the efficiency of the reform of the fiscal and taxation system. Thank you.
谢谢主持人。河南报业全媒体大河报大河客户端记者提问：我们注意到今年的中央1号文件将三农工作的重心聚焦在乡村振兴战略的实施上面。这个乡村战略的振兴离不开我们财政的支持。想请问，2018年我们中央财政在乡村振兴战略方面有哪些安排？谢谢。
With 大河报 In the number 1 central document this year, the focus of the work related to agriculture, rural areas and rural residents has been put on implementing the rural vitalization strategy. To do that, the support of the central budget is indispensable. My question is, what measures will the central government take to give financial support to the implementation of the rural vitalization strategy?
你提出的乡村振兴战略是一个非常重要，也非常令人鼓舞的
For the rural revitalization strategy, it is a very important and inspiring strategy. I would like to invite Mr. Hu, the Vice Minister, to address your question. So the 19th CPC Party Congress have identified the strategy for rural revitalization, and we also have detailed arrangement in the first central document. And we will strictly follow the instructions from the Central Committee and the State Council. And we will take 3 measures to realize this objective. The first one, we will raise funds from a variety of channels. So first, we need to improve the investment channel. For the public fund, we will prioritize the usage in the rural areas and to strengthen the weakness in the rural areas. At the same time, we will also try to be more innovative in raising funds. We are also implemented a policy which helps us to form a rural and urban integration. Through the trade of the land, we will want more rural people to share the benefits that are created by the urban area. And we will also try to make better leverage of the financial fund. And we want to be more diverse in the investment in the rural area. And second, we will be more targeted in investing in the rural area. First, we should focus on the supply side reform and be conducive to the development of the rural areas, the farmer, and also the agriculture industry. We will continue to develop the green development in order to support the rural area. For the impoverished regions, the poverty relief is of the most importance. We will continue to invest more in the Poverty Alleviation Fund. And we will make more investments in the education, medical service, transportation in the rural area to improve their living standards. And the third, we should strengthen the supervision of the fund. This fund is closely related to the life and work of the people who are living in the rural area. We will give more oversight to the fund and the battle against the corruption that was happening in the rural area. And we also will implement a fund performance management mechanism in the rural area to give more transparency to the peasants in order to gain their sense of fulfillment. Thank you.
我的问题是有关于这个“一带一路”建设的。那我们知道，今年呢是“一带一路”倡议提出的第5个年头。在这个支持“一带一路”建设的过程当中呢，财政部做了哪些工作？取得了怎样的成效？下一步还有什么样的考虑和打算呢？谢谢。
I'm with China Radio International. This year marks the 5th anniversary of the Belt and Road Initiative. Could you brief us on how the Ministry of Finance has supported the implementation of the initiative, and how about the result of your work? What plans do you have for the next step?
中国财政部深度参与了“一带一路”建设中的资金融资。
So the Ministry of Finance has deeply involved in the Belt and Road initiatives. We would like to invite Shi Yaozhong to address your question. So we all know that the Belt and Road initiatives was proposed by President Xi Jinping 5 years ago. Since then, we have received support from many countries. Now, we are putting the theory into reality and have achieved substantive achievements. I want to quote one of the concepts. They said that the Belt and Road initiatives serves a great platform for other countries to solve their own problems. The Belt and Road initiatives comes from China, but serve all the world. Mr. Xiao just mentioned that China has a comprehensive finance ministry, and we have deeply involved in the build-out of the Belt and Road initiatives. And we have made our contribution to the Belt and Road initiatives. In last year, in the forum of the Belt and Road, Minister Xiao Jie, on behalf of the Ministry of Finance, worked together with 26 leaders of Ministry of Finance in other countries to come up with a plan. We can see that the leaders coming from the world represent different continents. And from the financing perspective, we have reached consensus with other countries. And the guiding principle of the Belt and Road initiatives is to solve the problem of financing. And the first step is to implement cooperation from the financial perspective. Also, in May last year, Minister Xiao Jie also worked together with banks, including Asian Bank, Infrastructure Bank and Development Bank, to sign a memo for the Belt and Road initiatives, representing that China would like to stand side by side with other banks to continue the development under the projects with Belt and Road. All of these efforts will connect the cooperation between different countries, which will achieve win-win results. In the coming forward, we will continue to follow the instruction from the central government and better serve the build-out of the Belt and Road project to further enhance achievements that we have gained in the past few years. And we would like to formulate a financing mechanism which is stable in the long term under the framework of the cooperation memo and the Belt and Road initiatives. We want to make all of the agreements come into reality. And we will continue to further our dialogue about the tariffs and the founding of the free trade zone. And we would like to be more closely related to those countries along the route who signed the agreement about the tariff. And we would like to eliminate some of the difficulties that we have encountered for the taxation income. By doing all of this, we can remove the tax collection barrier, because we think the tax collection has played an important role in the process. Finance Ministry
will, based on the development of Belt and Road Initiative and based on our functions, will keep the pace with the dynamic trend and adjust our functions and roles to give our share of contribution to the development of Belt and Road Initiative. One last question.
谢谢主持人，我是来自中新社中新网的记者，是就中小微企业来提问肖部长。我们注意到官方近年来是出台了一系列的政策支持中小微企业，包括去年3月7日您在这里介绍的减税政策，和您今天回答第一个提问时提到的这个扩大减税范围。我们想了解今年在支持中小微企业方面还有哪些新的举措？谢谢。
I'm with China News Service. In recent years, China has introduced a host of policy measures to support the development of micro, small and medium-sized enterprises. I still remember on March the 7th last year, you briefed us on the tax policies, the policies on tax reduction. And in answering the first question on this press conference, you said that the policies will be extended to more companies. So what new measures do you have to further support their development?
我首先要谢谢你提出了一个我们国家中小微企业都
First of all, I would like to appreciate that you have asked a question regarding macro, small, medium-sized enterprises. This is also our key concern among society. Actually, around the globe, each country attaches a great importance to these groups of enterprises because these groups of enterprises are the key identities to create jobs. And they also drive capital's consumptions and creativities. In recent years, Ministry of Finance fully implement the decisions and the plans made by the Central Party Committee and State Councils regarding further advance the development of micro, small, medium-sized enterprises. We reduce the taxation and also extend the channels of profits with all range of policies. We further support the development of these group of enterprises development and received notable progress. Regarding to your question, this year, MOF will be more innovative in policies and mechanisms. We will conduct a comprehensive measures to create an enabling business environment for micro, small, medium-sized enterprises as well as for startups. First of all, we will continue our efforts in fiscal and taxation support. We will further give our big support to reduction of tax. Just now, I introduced this year's tax reduction policies. Actually, I've already mentioned that one of our key focus this year regarding these aspects is to reduce the burden, tax burden of micro, small size enterprises. We will have the same standard on sales revenue of these group of enterprises and half their taxation and also extend the group of people who can enjoy these benefits. Due to the interest of time, I will not elaborate in details. And secondly, we will continue our work to solve the issues for these group of enterprises of financing. We will let the government budget to play a guidance role. Right now, we have already set up a specific fund for the small and medium-sized enterprises as well as startups. On top of that, this year we will also establish the government guarantee fund for financing. We will improve the inclusive economic development, provide specific funds in this regard, and further optimize the environment for financing. And to extend the scope of guarantees and lower the fees for the areas who did a good job in this regard, we will give the incentives. By doing all of these, we will give further support to these group of enterprises in terms of financing. Thirdly, We will leverage the government's procurement to support these group of enterprises' further development. We consider to let them keep certain amount of a certain proportion for the government prosecutions, or let them combined to participate in bidding process to further optimize the enabling environment, to encourage them to participate in government open bidding, to give a very healthy environment for these group of enterprises further development. By giving